Good morning. It's Erica of AriBo Arts. We're here for some Battmaking. I took a break for a little bit because I was on the road. We're going to do a bat today, and then I won't be around next week either because I'll be on the road again, Michigan. No more about that. But yes, so you saw my post in the group earlier. My cat, I was away for 13 days, and I had a cat sitter come in, but it wasn't Mom. And so my cat has been a bit clingy. Heloise has been sort of like, oh, wait, you're on the sofa sitting drinking tea. I need to sit on you. And so I just convinced her to finally move. There was food involved. Okay, so I sort of left in a hurry when I left at the end of July. I was headed out to Teddy from Timber and Twine's farm to teach. And so I was frantically grabbing stuff. And so my fiber room is a bit of a mess. And I also taught a felting class. And I was going to make my students the bats. And I sort of ran out of time. So they got to play with bats from my stash. So I sort of like left stuff on the cart here. And I think I was trying to make something. Ooh, I've got this blob of blue. Let's see if I can even find. I think this is the one here. I don't know if that's what this one is. This says it is merino flax silk linen, but I don't think that's really what this is. I think I've got another card here. That could be what this is. It's wool. It's definitely wool. It actually looks like it's a solid, like it doesn't have any additional add-ins. This is what happens when you leave for 2 weeks. You completely forget what you were working on. Let's see what this says. I think this is Melissa's Yarn Barn Merino. There is something written faded right there. So that's Hotel California. But so I think this is from Melissa's Yarn Barn. So we're going to use this. I had pulled the blue sari silk to work with it. I think we're going to do that. I'm not sure about the turquoise. This is taking it in a different color direction. And this is a turquoise mulberry silk that I don't think I'm going to use. So I'm going to put it back. Now another option, instead of the blue, which actually I think might be more interesting, would be to use the green sari silk. I think that would be much more interesting. So let's do that. And then I'm going to turn around. My tub of bamboo, when I came home, had managed to knock over my laundry hamper, and because I probably left it precariously after I grabbed stuff out of it. So let me see if there's something in. I'm going to hold this little piece off the end here, and this for sort of color comparison, and see if anything is reaching out to me. Now I do have, that would take it more towards the green. This is the Bamboo Crush. This is Malachite, which is more blue. I kind of like that one. It's got a greenish tinge to it, but it's definitely a little more bluish. This is definitely more of a green. Let's see what else I got. I got a color that's called Anemone. That's more green. More Anemone. I got light blue Bio Nylon. I think that's going to just fade into that. I want more drama. Let's see what else I got. Now, I don't have in here all the things I got when I was in Missouri. I think most of that stuff went to Colorado with me, and so I know I got some other colors, but they're not readily available. Let's see. I don't think hot pink is going to work. What do you think? Hot pink? It would, actually, hang on. Pink and green, of course, go together. I kind of like that. But do I need, I might do it. Just to see how it turns out. I think I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm gonna take my water bottle, drink from it, and then put it someplace safe where I hopefully won't knock it over. Okay, and then I'm going to do a real quick, I can see I have a little bit of debris. I think the drum is clean for the most part. I think it's just the liquor in had some tiny little bit. I think there were some rocks. Yeah, so I had a blast the last 2 weeks. I'm exhausted. Yesterday was sort of recovery day. Today I'm sort of forcing myself to do some work. This, by the way, is half of a braid. I divided it. And then I don't know where I did with the other half. I will find it at some point. So today I was going to head down to the dye lab and work on some of my tie-dye stuff. Because I'm leaving very, very early on Tuesday. So that gives me, 7 days to get stuff done. And I do have some things I need to dye that are in my basement storage area, but my big Dharma order, middle-sized Dharma order that I made while I was traveling, take it down, which was supposed to arrive yesterday, isn't arriving until tomorrow. And I finally just decided I have enough stuff to do around the house that I should just stay home, do the stuff around the house, get on top of that. So that's the plan. Make a couple bats during the day, and so forth. Okay. So we're using Sebastian again. I always use Sebastian. I do have other drum carters, but Sebastian is my favorite. I have no trouble admitting it. He's also the one who's most accessible. Brother Cadfell is over there. Squirt is actually under here. The Canadian carter that never acquired a name is accessible, but it's kind of pain in the butt to use. So I don't use it very often. Let's use this little piece here. Do I have another one? Where's my fancy kitty? Let's see. Fancy kitty one is somewhere, which is one I haven't decided on, but I think is going to become known as Molly, which is the medieval word for cat, or nickname for cat. There we go. Nice, but I'm pretty sure this is Merino. Okay, let's put on the bamboo first. Yeah, but I had a blast. It was. I think I would enjoy it more if I had a camper. I was in my tent for a good part of those 2 weeks. First night I traveled halfway into Nebraska, and the plan I booked into a KOA, and I left late because I was still running around getting everything organized, and also I'm leaving for 2 weeks, so and someone's coming in to take care of the cat, so there's certain things I can't. It's not like I have a spouse who can do the dishes and all that. And I do want dirty dishes to sit for 2 weeks, right? Oh yeah, look at that pink. Look at that pink. We'll use a ton of it, but just a little bit here and there. Anyway, so I didn't leave till maybe noon. The plan had been to leave before 9. And as I got into Nebraska, and once you get past Omaha area, because it's the bluffs around the river, it's sort of hilly and all that. But once you get closer to Lincoln and all that, it's pretty flat. And you get a great view out to the west, which I should have been driving into the sunset. Instead, I was driving into storm clouds. Oh yeah, this works. This totally works. Look at that. Isn't that fun? And so I'm racing to try and get there so I can set my tent up before whatever storm is coming. And I get there, and I had actually called and said, I think the office closes at 6 or something. I'm like, I'm not gonna get there by 6. What do I do? Because I'd never stayed at one of these before. And so they explained how to get in, and how there was bathroom coat, on the thing they leave me, and all this other stuff. So I get there, and the place for tents is actually very nice. It's right next to one of the bathrooms. It's this lovely, lush grass, and then there's electric, though everything was like 15, 20 amp. I was set up for 30 amps, but anyways. So I get there, and I like look out to the west, and it's like dark, dark, dark. And so like I like, you know, I was going to unload, and someone walks by and says, people usually park if they've got a tent, they're parking on the grass. I'm like, so I back up under the grass, and I grab my tent, and I grab my ground cloth, and I go over to the picnic table, which is, you know, sort of the back of the site, and I put the tent. My tent is a big, I don't know if it's a 4 or 6 person tent, but it's pretty darn big, right? And it's heavy, and it's got metal poles and stuff like that. So I like thump it down on the picnic table, and I got my phone in my back pocket, and I'm like, you know, because I've been sort of checking the weather on and off a little bit, and I grabbed the ground cloth, which is in a plastic bag, so I like tuck the bag in my pocket so it doesn't blow away, and I take the ground cloth and I start to shake it out, and I also had a plastic bag with all the stakes in it. Put that on the picnic table as well. Shake out the ground cloth, throw it down, and put my foot on it. Reach for a stake, and I take enough pressure off the ground cloth that the ground cloth goes airborne and starts to fly. So I chase that down, step on it, grab it, bring it back. At which point I discovered that the bag of stakes and the very heavy tent have been blown off the picnic table. And then my phone goes off with a severe thunderstorm alert, warning, and then I see lightning off in the distance to the west, and I'm like, this is probably not a good time to be camping under trees, because it was nicely wooded, that particular plot, with metal stakes and all of this, and I'm thinking, this is really not a good idea. And so I grab the tent and all the other stuff, and I throw open the side door, and I toss it all in, and I pull out one of my extension cords that I normally use in my booth, because they don't have the 30 amp points, they only have these, I don't know, it was 15 or 20, but so I plug that in. Fortunately, the van is close enough, because I got in July, I had a shore power inlet added to the side of the van. A little bit more of that. And so I plug the van in, and then that has a cord that runs through to a power strip I have inside, which is sort of handily located sort of in the middle between the two front seats. I don't have any other seats in the front ones, but and so I get in the van, I'm able to plug a fan in and my phone in to that power, and then the skies open up, and I'm like, you know, everything in the van is full, because I'm traveling for 13 days. I'm teaching, I'm selling stuff, and I'm camping. So I have like 3 distinct types of things in the van, and there's, you know, the spinning wheels in the passenger seat. And so I spent the night sleeping in the passenger seat. It was very uncomfortable. I did not get a lot of sleep. So my first camping experience of the trip was not particularly good. They got better, though I will say the next time I camped in the tent, I was also in Nebraska, different part. First time I was near Grand Island, which is sort of in the middle on I-80. And the next time I camped, I was in Gering, which is sort of in western Nebraska, sort of northwest maybe. You get Wyoming radio stations. Let me put it that way. And that's where all the great bluffs are, Scotts Bluff and all that. And I was there for 2 nights. And the first night there was another severe thunderstorm. This one, the guy who sort of was the staff at the place was like, well, people aren't really supposed to sleep in their non-camping vehicles, But if it gets really bad, please do that. And by the way, here's the tornado shelter location. They're like, don't use the bathrooms. Head over to, I think it was a school or something like that. So I went through, it was a severe thunderstorm with high winds and winds in such a way that like my tent, because my tent was all closed up, but like it wasn't just like blowing in one side, it was like sucking in on multiple sides at the same time, which was a little nerve-wracking. And because of the amount of rain, I'm like lying in bed and there's enough, because it's an RV park, they have certain lights that stay on all night. So there's enough shadow that I can sort of see my rainfly over, lying on my cot, looking up, looking at the rainfly, and watching the shadow of the rainfly on the side of the tent. Is it still where it's supposed to be? And at one point I look and it's not where it's supposed to be. It's sort of close and then it's far away. It's close. So something had given. It was about 3 a.m. And so I went out and 2 stakes had actually come up because the ground had just gotten so wet. So I was able to like grab them, step on them, get them back in. At which point there was another woman camping out there in a tent. And she sort of stuck her head out. She'd been asleep through most of this. I, of course, had been awake, checking to make sure no water's coming in and all this. And she's like, what's up? Oh, yeah. It's gotten bad, hasn't it? I was like, yeah. And so my whole plan the next morning, I'd sleep in, sort of vacation type thing. And they start mowing the lawn at 7:30. And I was like, I didn't get to bed till like 4. And they're mowing the lawn at 7:30. But yeah, so next night was quite nice, but then I had to get up really early and drive 13 hours up to Fargo. For those of you not in the Midwest, you may not have heard of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, which happens in Sturgis, South Dakota. And so it started on August 1st, and I was traveling on the 31st of July, so there were a lot of people on their way to Sturgis, usually all traveling the opposite direction that I was. Though earlier in the day it was more people traveling the same direction, but and at one point my map app wanted me to go through Sturgis, and I was like, are you kidding me? Why would you send anyone that was not on a motorcycle through Sturgis? Or didn't have Sturgis as a destination, right? So I found an alternative route. And so it was very, very pretty. I took lots of country roads. I did a little bit of I-90. I actually did stop in Wall. I drove down to Wall Drugs, at which point it was so crazy there that I just said, I don't have time to deal with this. So I did not stop at Wall Drugs. I almost did, and someday I probably will. I went to my first Buc-ee's on this trip too. It was actually Teddy from Small Acre Farm actually took me, and Janice from Valley View Farm was there as well. She took us as an excursion to go to Buc-ee's. Oh, and get cheap gas for a car, but it was an experience, I'll tell you that. That's a little thick there. I'm going to pull that out. Yeah, I got to go to Fargo for the first time. Didn't really get to see much of it because I liked the campgrounds. It was right beside, I think it's the Red River. In a park that had really nice little like walking trails and all that. By the way, if you're watching and you have comments, I still cannot see comments. I will look at them afterwards. This color, by the way, is called Neon, not surprisingly. think Heloise has gone back to hide. Her newest thing is to hide under the chaise lounge. My poor cat sitter would message me every day and say, so, I didn't see her. You know, she'll say one day she'll say, this little paw came out from underneath, but she never came out. But she was eating and drinking and all that, so using the box. She just, I think there's a period in the morning where she likes to hide there. And so that's like when the cat sitter likes to come. So the cat sitter said, I'm going to come later tomorrow to see if I can see her. Heloise was out there demanding pets and everything. So she just has this little alone time underneath the furniture in the late morning. I do love that green sari silk. If you have a name suggestion for this, please pop in the comments. Okay, that's what we got left for our merino. It was a great festival that I went to up in Fargo. I think they're reconstituting the board, so there was talk about whether or not it would go on next year. We will see. But one of the things I really liked about it is it appears to draw on a number of different fiber arts. And so they had the vendors all around. And then in the center, they had a sort of a demo area where people from the local guilds were spinning and weaving and stuff like that. But they had these two women who were dressed up in sort of Viking outfits who were using, they said they were Swedish, not Norwegian. I'm more familiar with the Norwegian and the Icelandic. But they were using warp-weighted looms, sort of historic Viking loom types of things. And weaving, so that was very cool. But then in the exact center, they had this gigantic square, sort of void in the middle, so that's where volunteers could be. But they had like stations, and you could try various fiber arts, and they even had this sort of this little passport thing where you would get like a stamp after you tried each one, and if you tried a certain number of fiber arts, you qualified for a prize. So it was really cool. And they had, not just like, they had knitting and crocheting at one, but they had like Brazilian embroidery, gold work, I think what other ones? Needle felting, pom-pom making, tassel making, crazy quilts. There was a lot of quilt stuff there. I know I'm forgetting some. But there were a whole bunch that you could try. So it was a lot of fun. Got to meet some new vendors that I've never met before. I think I was the only one from Iowa there. There were people from Minnesota, obviously the North and South Dakota, Wisconsin. I think where else? No, Yarn Adventure Truck. I mean, they're technically from Arkansas. But they live on the road now, so they're from everywhere. They were actually my neighbors, which was turned out to be very dangerous. Just a little more here in the middle. And I think we're done. I don't think I'm going to put that last bit on. Push it all down. What do you think? Now I got to figure out where I put the other one. I think it's down here. Yes, I found it. Okay, put it with the rest. Okay, so name suggestions definitely. And if you want to start guessing the weight, go right ahead. I'm going to do a second one of these. I got enough of that, so I'll use the rest. Just push that down. Oh, I can't weigh it because the scale is still packed with stuff I was teaching with. I thought about that this morning as I went to move something upstairs. And I was like, oh, I can remember to get that. And I forgot. But you can still guess. And I will confirm the weight in a little bit. After I figure out, that little tub I always use. I saw that, but I'm not sure where I put the actual scales, though. But go right ahead and guess. There will be delayed emojis of trophies if you are the closest. Yeah. All right, I'm warm. It's not that hot out, but I got the ceiling fan on. I got the oscillating fan on, which turned out to be really useful this past weekend in my booth because the arena didn't have any air conditioning. So I just had blowing air on me. It felt so lovely. Okay, so breaking the bat here. And I'm just going to peel this off. Oh, got some stuck there. Let's get this off here. One of the other cool things I did when I was in Fort Collins, there's a couple of really good tea shops there. So I got a breakfast tea that I like to get from one shop, and then there's this other shop where I like a bunch of their teas. I went a little crazy. I bought a lot of tea. Okay, I also went out to Brown Sheep Company, which is also the whole reason I was in Western Nebraska. Isn't that fun? That's a lot of fun. So hopefully when I tease it out, we'll still get some good pops of that green and everything else. Okay? So I will take photos of this later and get the weight on it as well. Just hold it right there. Okay. Thank you very much for tuning in. Okay. Reminder that I will not be doing this next Wednesday because I will be in a tent at the fairgrounds in Allegan, Michigan. But I will be back on, I think it's the 20th, and pretty much doing it. I may have to move one in September because I will be at DFW, and I think I have to leave on Wednesday. But I haven't figured that out yet. That's far, far away. So I hope you're having a very pleasant week, and I will see you around on Facebook. And YouTube if I ever get these on YouTube. Take care.